nobody's goals and values are the same as yours. They're very unique to you, which means that you cannot compare yourself to your friends or to anyone else because they don't share the same dreams, the same goals and values as you do. I don't worry what society is doing. I don't worry about what people around me are doing. I focus on us, our family, our goals and dreams, what we have in place, and then I make decisions based on that. And welcome back to another episode of Soul Wellness. Now today it is Christmas Day around the world when this episode drops. So by the time you're listening to it, hopefully the hustle and bustle of Christmas is over. You've enjoyed some amazing food and spending time with your family, and now you're gearing up to think about 2025. So I thought we'd do something a little bit special today, and I'm going to reflect on my year, my learnings, things that I have really excelled in and then also learnt this year, and then even into some planning for next year to help you as you start to think about what you want to achieve in 2025. So before we kick this off, I just wanted to thank you all for listening, for giving me your feedback about these episodes. It really means the world to me. And if you've got any ideas for 2025 or incredible guests you want me to interview, please drop me a line, let me know, or reach out on Instagram because I would love to hear from you. So let's take a look at what I planned for 2024. So when I started my planning earlier this year, I set a really big personal goal. And I wanted to be able to take my family to Scotland for Christmas. We were going to go to Europe and have an amazing time. And hopefully by now I will be in the snow. By the time you're listening to this, it's been snowing already before I've left, and I'm looking forward to having a white Christmas with my family. So that was a huge goal that we set ourselves at the beginning of the year. And I also set a few personal goals for my self-development. I wanted to learn a lot as I was continuing doing some mastery programs and learning from my mentors for my business. I also set some huge wellness goals, and I really wanted to be more consistent with my nutrition, with my exercise regime. And whilst I did get better at that, I did have some reflections on that as well. So I'll talk to you about that. One of my biggest challenges is with traveling. Like I find it really hard because I'm always away, and then often I'm tired. Sometimes waking up in a hotel and going into the gym isn't always ideal because I need that extra sleep with travel time and everything else. So that was probably my biggest challenge this year. I love Pilates and I wanted to do weights as well. Definitely kept doing my Pilates classes, but I didn't get to do a lot of the weight training that I'd planned to do in January. So that's now becoming my 2025 goal. One of the things that I learned a lot about wellness this year was that we are all so individual. And so at the beginning of the year, I had gained a few extra kilos that I really wanted to shift. And I did a wellness plan. I actually did the Health with Beck 3-week reset, which was absolutely amazing. If you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend you check out Health with Beck. I really loved the 3-week reset. I followed it to a T, and I ensured that I really cut out alcohol. I reduced my caffeine intake. I was sleeping better. Not only did I lose weight, but I was feeling great and all the sugar cravings had gone. It's incredible what you can do when you really focus on something. So I found it to be really helpful. And even once I finished the 3-week reset, I continued on with a lot of her eating plans because a lot of the ways that you eat is really easy to do. Lots more protein, which I hadn't been doing. And I was feeling really good. But then I actually got sick. And what was interesting was I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I had severe tummy pains. Everything I ate made me feel sick. I had to go to the doctor who ran some blood tests, and she thought I was allergic to something. So then I had to see an allergist, and a bit of a long story. Then I had to have a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy. All of the things and all of the tests I did couldn't find anything for my pain. At one stage, I thought it was appendicitis, then they thought it was gallstones. It was really uncomfortable in my stomach. And eventually I did some testing with my friend Chantel from Minimalist Naturopath. And what we discovered was that I couldn't digest fats properly. So because I couldn't digest fats, being on that lower carb, higher fat diet had actually really upset my stomach and made me feel really sick. So I'm just talking about that because whilst all these eating plans are great, if it's not right for you, it sometimes can make you not feel 100%. So what I've managed to do since then is tweak my Health with Beck plan. I still do lots of low carb, but I just am very conscious and careful not to do too much high fat. Because that definitely aggravated my stomach. And then I also learned a lot about my own gut bacteria that I need to work on. So that's a huge plan for me moving into next year. And I think it's really good for us to learn these things because that could have gone misdiagnosed or, for a really long time until I ended up really sick as well. So it is important to listen to our bodies and that not everything will work for every single person. So no matter what you're doing, take what you want out of it. If you're not getting the results you want, go see someone and get some answers because I'm glad that I had some friends that could help coach me on how to handle that because after I'd gone to the allergist, the gastroenterologist, I wasn't really getting any answers until I started looking at my gut health. So definitely that is my big takeaway from this year to really, really focus on understanding my body more and what I need, not necessarily what's good for everybody else. And I found just keeping that weight off has been a lot easier, just focusing on more nutritious food. So again, more clean eating, exercising when I can, moving my body when I can, and not holding myself into such guilt if I can't do it. So I'll do the best I can. If I'm busy, then I just pick up the next day, the next week, the next month, and get back to it as quick as I can rather than holding on to any guilt. So I guess my big reflections were I focused a lot on health this year. I got some good results, but next year I want to be more consistent and take it to another level. So that was a huge reflection. Another reflection that I've worked really hard on, and I want to talk about this one because I think for the world we're living in, it's really relevant, but it's letting go of comparisons. So I think, often we compare ourselves, our families, our life to our friends, to people around us, to what we consume on social media, to what we think is the norm. And I think my biggest takeaway this year was nobody's goals and values are the same as yours. They're very unique to you, which means that you cannot compare yourself to your friends or to anyone else because they don't share the same dreams, the same goals and values as you do. So, what I've actually learned this year is to let go of comparisons, to not care if I can't do something my friends are doing or go somewhere they're going or a trip or a holiday or something like that because your values are different. So if you said yes to that thing, it could potentially take you further away from your goals or your values. So what I try and do instead now is I don't worry what society is doing. I don't worry about what people around me are doing. I focus on us, our family, our goals and dreams, what we have in place, and then I make decisions based on that. And I found that's been really, really helpful because even, for example, us setting this holiday goal, right? This year, we obviously wanted to go to Scotland for Christmas. It's a big trip, it's going to cost a lot of money. And obviously, we could have spent that money on investing in more property but because our goals and our values are around experiences and having fun with our kids and exploring the world, that fits with our values, but it doesn't mean it's going to fit with someone else's values. That could be really uncomfortable for other people to spend that much money on another holiday where they might go, you know what, we'd rather put that money on the house. We'd rather, do renovations at home, or we'd rather put that into an investment of a property. So I guess what I'm trying to remind you all is that we all have different goals, values, and dreams. And so don't compare yourself to anyone else. Compare yourself to what you want to achieve. So, again, looking at your goals, your dreams, your values, and making sure every decision you make and the goals you set for next year align with that. Because if they do, you will feel happy, you'll feel relieved, and you will know what journey you're on, and you won't compare yourself to anybody else. And when you do feel any of that comparison, it'll literally fleet in. It'll come in for a minute, you'll feel it, you'll push through it, and then you won't worry about it again because it's not your story and it won't bring you closer to your dreams. So I hope that has clarified that for you. But that was probably one of my biggest things I had to let go of this year. And I feel like I've actually really done that. And I've evolved and grown in so many other ways as well. So I have had a few big lessons. Number one, probably my biggest lesson this year has been you can't always do everything and you need to ask for help. So I'm not always good at that. I'm very good at keeping all the balls in the air, doing all the things, but I definitely know that it came at the detriment of my family this year. So I feel like my work demands grew so much, but yet my household demands and what my family needed from me stayed the same. So there wasn't like a shift of you've got to work harder, you've got to travel more, you've got to do all this stuff to fit the goals of the business. But at the same time, my family life like just didn't change that much. I was still having to do a lot of the chores and just a lot of the mental load, which a lot of females have to do in the home. And whilst my husband is great, he's very good at, helping balance tasks at home, still that family load, the invisible load that we talk about a lot was very much on me. So we sat down as a family, and my husband and I had some conversations about how can we make this better next year? What can we do in 2025 that's going to make it easier on all of us? And so we figured out that a lot of my mental load had to shift over to him. And so because it's aligned and we know in a big scheme of things, we're very much focused on the business and what we want to achieve with the business, that it's great now because we've decided, right, next year he's going to take on a lot more of that load. That's going to free me up to really excel in the dreams and goals that I have for the business. And at the same time, then I will have the support from him at home and the kids, and everyone's going to be a little bit less stressed because we've aligned everything as a family. So I think really having those conversations at home about what are the goals and dreams, because if one person has these goals to do all of this stuff here and then you're not aligned on it and there's so much of a shift of responsibility, it can become really overwhelming. And I definitely think that that was probably my biggest takeaway this year, was have the hard conversations, figure out a solution that works for your whole family, and then set some goals for the next year, which is what we've done. So I'm hoping to definitely excel and grow and scale my business and have that as my number one focus. And my husband will help me more at home with the family and running the household and supporting me, which is, it's a huge win for us. I also learnt that health is absolutely number one, and it's not something that it's new to me. I've known this for a really long time, but this year's definitely reminded me of that. So I think if you're eating well and exercising and working on your mind daily with affirmations and practicing gratitude and getting yourself into the right state of mind, you're going to be so much more successful at achieving your goals because you're going to be focused on them. They're either going to be visually in your eyesight every single morning, or they're going to be written down in front of you, and you're going to have a clear plan of how you're going to achieve them. And I don't think you should have tons of goals. Like, I always sit with 3 to 5. That's about it. And I really kind of focus on those few goals to make sure I achieve them. So number one for our family is definitely going to be number one for all of us. We're really moving into next year with that real focus on whole foods, eating well, exercising, and just really, really making our health number one. I think another big learning that I have as being a busy person, and I care about a lot of people, I care about my friends, I care about my family, I care about seeing people and spending time with them. And I'm fortunate that I still have my grandmother too, and I love seeing her. So I feel like I had to really decide that you need to have present moments, and it's about the quality, not the quantity. And having that shift has helped me, because I think if people really love you, then they will know that you genuinely want to see them. You might not be able to see them very often. And again, a lot of my friends this year, I haven't spent the time that I've wanted to with them. But again, it's that quality over quantity. So when you're with them, being present in that moment and genuinely caring what's going on with them, with your friends, with your family, is much better than trying to wear yourself thin and not being present in that moment. So to give you an example with my kids, what I've been trying to do is, like with my son, we read at night, reading meaningful books, having meaningful conversations, taking walks together, going for a swim together, putting devices away and having that real one-on-one time. It doesn't have to be every single day, but trying to have moments out of the day where you can do that, or every second or third day, so that you're really connecting with the people that you love, but not feeling like you're overwhelmed because you're trying to do all the things and be everybody to everyone, which I think that's probably been a huge takeaway for me this year. And then coming into setting goals for 2025. So this is the exciting part, right? So you've reflected on the year that you've had. I want you to really think about some of the things you've learned this year, even if it's some of the rituals that we've shared on the podcast. Is there any that have stood out to you that go, you know what, I'd really like to add that one to my 2025? Because my advice to you whilst you're planning for next year isn't to go crazy with all these unattainable goals. Pick small little things, small little habits. If I think back to one of our very first episodes with Gina Cleo, which this is probably a reminder to go listen to that episode if you haven't. It was one of our very first ones that launched, and Gina is amazing at breaking down habits and looking at how can we just pick a few things and do something that's going to be achievable, not these pie in the sky kind of goals that, you start in January and then you end by the end of Jan, and then you spend the rest of the year wondering where the year went. That's not what we want to do for you guys. We want to set you up to succeed by looking at how can you just make some small tweaks or changes that will just help you progress, which is what it's about. Progression, not perfection. So, one of the things I like to do with my family, and we'll definitely be doing it this year, is get a vision board. And you can do it visually, like cut and paste, stick things on, or you can just do it electronically on a computer, or just have conversations and then one person owns the vision. But I'll always ask them, what do we want to do next year? What's everyone's goals? What do people want? And then put it all into a place where you can all see it. And then I like to have it where we can all see it all the time, or I have it in a visual spot for myself. And I just remind everyone of like what we decided on. Like I said, the beginning of the year, this year it was about the holiday to Scotland. So you just want to make sure that you're all aligned. You all have a visual of the things that you want, as a family or even as yourself. If it's all about you, then just things that you want, whether it's like for me coming into next year, I'm going to weight train. So I definitely want to do more weights. I'm already doing Pilates. I'm already walking. I'm already doing a bit of running here and there, but I really want to weight train more. So that's absolutely going to be a focus for me. And I think having just a few little goals that you can focus on, I definitely, health is number one for me. Further working on the eating, the clean eating and everything is really, really important, and consistency. But then I also, for my business, I also want to really focus on expanding into the UK and Europe and the USA. So a lot of my tasks and roles will be on expansion and how I can achieve that and how I can focus on that. We will do our vision board, which we will do probably when we're away this year, thinking and imagining what we want to achieve. And then definitely moving my body. It does not need to be complicated. It needs to just serve you as just, even if it's just one thing I can add in. Another ritual that I added this year, and I absolutely love it, is just having a cup of like sleepy tea at night. It just really, really settles me, helps me get a good sleep. Just adding in a few extra rituals, that are going to help support you. So that's probably been my biggest, takeaways this year and moving into planning. I just want you to start to think about it now. This is the time. Like, silly season's almost finished. I mean, we're still in full swing, but you can start to think about what do you want to achieve for 2025. And next week, we're going to be back with an even more interesting episode on how to get the best out of 2025. So please tune in and listen to it. This is like one of my favorite episodes with someone really amazing, and I can't wait to share it with you next week. So start to think about your goal planning and setting, and then join us next week for this really, really insightful episode about knowing what you want to achieve for 2025 and also what's happening in the world, the energy, like the shift. So I really hope you join us next week for that, and enjoy the rest of your holidays and time with your loved ones. And thank you again so much for being a part of Soul Wellness and my journey this year. And I can't wait to see you again next year.